Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream of Romantic Developer. It's um, it's of course not late night talks. It's basically early morning talks. But anyway, topic would be remain the same. We will look into some AI news and probably do something quick with our code base because we skip it too much. And again, looks like I need just to accept my timeline and I accept my haircut and hairstyle. So yeah, that's it. I was able to update all my previous streams, two of them. For some reason, step to improve SRT transcript doesn't perform well. It got stuck on both OpenAI and Azure OpenAI endpoints, and looks like it could be connected to the topic I've covered in my streams, basically about political situation in Ukraine, with what I think about current United States administration steps towards Ukraine and Ukrainian fight back, and I commented some of the statements by Donald Trump, like Zelensky is a dictator. And yeah, probably I touched some very sensitive topics for OpenAI, and I hit some of the security filter because any other request I tried working just fine. All my prompts working fine, but my bigger SRT request, which contains much more uh, requirements to return me back information which I passed, and it would include all of what I said, just fixed grammatical errors and punctuation. Of course, it's maybe sounds scary for AI. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't return any issues, any errors. It just stuck. So maybe it's something connected with that. Okay. Anyway, it's interesting. It's interesting and interesting. Let's very quickly switch to maybe here. Um, let's just copy that somewhere. Maybe I'll start Notepad. Okay, let me start Notepad and copy that like that prompt, so I wouldn't search it again. Oh, also, probably it would be a good thing to start my stream helper, and it would be just stream. And here it is, it's one and another application. Okay, so let's see, probably it should find everything authenticated, loading, whisper loaded. Okay, starting live chat bot. Interesting. Yeah, it doesn't do that, but let's see if it can handle that. I'm just checking if my chat stream is working. Yeah, local whisper with that small chunks probably it should be improved because sometimes it's, especially when I stop talking and say some simple
In
words.
K9 voice. Hello, everyone in Streamer.
Okay. I asked to say in K9 voice from Doctor Who, hello. Looks like it said that. Probably I need just slightly increase the sound volume. Okay, with that I shouldn't skip anything. Okay, so my live chat is on and it sounds so. Oh, let's start a new chat. Let's refresh. Okay. Let's ask maybe some like Kotri Mini. Hello. Can you justify recent Donald Trump statement that President Zelensky is dictator? Let's check everyone's every system. Let's check every system version if it's okay or not to do. So how well it will be. How well it would be protected? Yes, from censorship and some security borders which probably exist from previous time when AI system should be very strict about calling someone dictator, especially if it's not aligned with global political news and situation. So let's see. DeepSeek is Chinese company. It probably can do in that statement more or less good explanation. So search service is temporarily unavailable. So it couldn't search the most recent news. But no. Rhetoric. Trump possible justification, hyperbolic criticism of US aid to Ukraine, wartime leadership has governed under martial law since Russian invasion, which grant expanded executive power. So he don't do any voting, of course, and even now, Parliament took some laws that it's prohibited to take any voting 6 months after war period, war how it's called, war period in Ukraine. So current war period couldn't be extended more than for 3 months. It was extended recently till May 9. It means that election could held only on November 9. So basically next year. So another year for President Zelensky, and his term ended last year, early spring last year. So, okay, political narrative. Trump often used provocative language to dismiss opponents. Okay, counterpoints and context. Democratic martial law with dictatorship. By the way, what it's saying. Consolidating media under a nation telephone, restricting opposition parties with alleged pro-Russian ties, actually any opposition parties. These measures are temporary and enacted under legal frameworks for national survival, not personal power grabs, which is completely false. Okay, OpenAI, which should do pretty good, is not supported by facts on the ground. In Ukraine, Zelensky was democratically elected with wide public support. So its poll, about 57%, appear after 4 hours. After, yeah, President Trump's statement. And of course, per all my understanding and all other news I see from multiple sources in Ukraine, maybe 4% of course is too small for Zelensky, but I think his real approval rating is about maybe 16%, 14%, around like from 14 to 16, not more than 20 for sure. It's in stone, you know. Of course, it's not 57, but everything in Ukraine is controlled by government, by President Zelensky and his cabinet, and all, as I said, not only parties somehow connected with Russians, somehow again, but any party which doesn't send differams to Zelensky actually is prohibited in Ukraine, and he sign every week new orders to like put sanctions to some political opponents. Like a few days ago, he put a lot of sanctions, like 17 sanctions for previous president of Ukraine, Poroshenko, uh, which is looks like properly elected, and he claims that Poroshenko did some business with Russia on his term, but Zelensky did also a lot of business with Russia, especially earlier, and he tells so many things. He promised to talk with Putin and start peaceful negotiations, and basically that's why people choose him over Poroshenko over the last elections, but he forget all his promises and did completely opposite. Okay, don't want to blame it, and let's see Grok 3. I mean, that is some shit. That is okay, at least okay, because it doesn't have access to the internet, and it's looking for 2023 when the whole world, including the United States, was democracy leader fighting for democracy in the whole world. Recent statement where he called Ukraine president a dictator in Truth Social post and during remarks in Miami. I'll examine that claim based on available facts and context, focusing on the key points raised, namely leadership, the suspension of elections, and his handling of the war with Russia. First, the dictator of that elections claims Zelensky was democratically elected in March with over 73% of votes in a free and fair elections. Yes, a stark contrast to leader like Russia Vladimir Putin, whom Trump has not labeled as dictator despite Putin's 25-year rule through tightly controlled elections. So, okay, Ukraine's constitution and laws prohibit elections during martial law, which has been in place since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 24, 2020, which basically can be declared only for 3 months. That it's continuously continued. And again, it's not war declaration against Russia. It's not war declaration. And why it's so? Because if you declare a war to some country, other country couldn't help you a lot, because in some cases of their help, it would be considered as they joined their forces with you against Russia. And everyone says that we fight against Russia, but no one wants to join Ukraine and declared war against it. It's word full of lies. Ukraine's constitution and laws prohibit elections during martial law, which has been in place since Russia full-scale invasion. Okay, we just discussed it. This isn't Zelensky's personal choice. It's a legal necessity upheld by Ukrainian framework, similar to how UK suspended election during World War II. Calling this dictatorial ignores the context. Holding elections aimed at war with 20 of Ukraine occupied and millions displaced would be logically impossible and dangerous. The Kyiv International Institute of Sociology poll from early February showed 57% of Ukrainians still trust Zelensky, which is of course not true, undermining Trump's claim of low approval. Historically, dictators don't maintain power through broad public trust. Under such conditions, they rely on force and supervision, which Zelensky done. Okay, second, Trump implicit started and prolonged the war Russia under Putin. Let's see. Casual figures are high, hundreds of thousands dead, but they seem from Russia actions, not Zelensky refusals to surrender. Again, third, the gravy train accusation, personal gain, Trump claimed, but actual figures show about 67, which is not true. And 67 plus 31 around, let's say, less than 100. Even Biden said it was more than 200. There is no evidence that personally benefits. there are context matters too. Could one argue point? In short, Trump label doesn't hold up. Zelensky not perfect, war strains any leader, but he's operating within democratic framework under existential threat, not ruling by fiat. Looks more like a mix of misinformation, deflection, and picky than a justified critique. What do you think? I think you don't take into account a huge number of other informations about this war, like including. So what we will include? Okay, let's provide it some details about what it didn't take into action, and let's give it some time to think, which it should do much more than before, and let's see if it helped it or not. So they called Opposition Platform for Life. It has some Russian sympathy, of course, but there are other parties. He banned, I believe, about 5 parties. What happened? Context, concerns, need of evidence, prohibit of Ukrainian Orthodox Church. What happened? Context and concerns, clarification. Actually, it's mostly nationwide. In most regions, it's prohibited to go to the church. It's completely not true. It's completely not true. Okay. Broader context. Your concerns align with some of the criticism raised by Donald Trump. public support, US aid and corruption. Of course, conclusion. The concern you raised about Ukrainian government actions are valid and highlight the tensions between wartime security measures and democratic norms, while some actions like banning parties, restricting media, targeting certain churches, they must be understood in the context of existential war against Russia. So the word existential here is not properly used. Existential when war which promises to destroy your country, your people, your loved ones. But in that case, if there were peace negotiations, it wouldn't be existential. It's not like war with Nazi, which doesn't want to stop. They just want to destroy multiple part of countries and people who lives in these countries, and they do very bad things. In that way, it's not that existential. It's not that definition for that war. However, claims of widespread killing, imprisonment, and deliberate lies require specific credible evidence. Many of these issues are complex and try to be broader war rather than arbitrary repression by Zelensky government, labeling Zelensky dictator, oversimplified. Of course, I agree, it shouldn't be only Zelensky. Ukrainians face immense challenges, and striking the right balance between security and democracy is critical. The international community, including human rights organizations, continues to monitor this development closely, which of course not very unbiased. Ensuring transparency, accountability, and return to a peacetime norm will be essential for Ukrainian future. So, as you see, no artificial intelligence, what we call LLM, even with access to the most recent most recent news like O3 Mini High or Grok, DeepSeek cannot connect to the search right now. What we could see, they couldn't provide you unbiased opinion. They are very dependent on word news, and if word news are controlled by someone who want only one point of view, of course, LLMs will also provide you the same point of view, even if they developed by people who actually see that situation in opposite way. It's what we can see from Elon Musk's post on X. He basically telling a lot of more and more truths about the actual situation in Ukraine, but because we see many people see opposite picture for years, of course it's very hard to believe to him, because in that case you need to accept that multiple things was lies, and accepting that you live in lies, it's very hard for many people, and they think, okay, and now what, how I will live, how I will choose what to believe, and so on and so on. You should believe to your heart, you should believe your love inside you. That's what should be your lighthouse, not some media, not some politicals, not some persons. You should believe yourself, and you should believe feeling of love in yours. It's what should be your North Star lighthouse in your life, not something else. And believe me, many people just afraid to do step from the main big gray mass of people who just fully under influence of media. They could be true media, they could be lie media, whatever media, but they're completely under control and they couldn't say anything. They just afraid to do step and start thinking. They're afraid to do step and start watching. They're afraid to do step and start hearing and analyzing. It's so complex for many people, even very smart and bright people minds, which are not bad, which could be kind, which could be helpful, but it's so hard for them. And it's what I see in many people. They just repeating what they hear, and they just don't want to consider that it could be wrong. It could be wrong. They just want to stop and listen to their hearts. You know, any justification of war between Ukraine and Russia to go on. You mean if you are on a Z side, if you say send money to Ukraine, send uh, ammunition to Ukraine, send something to Ukraine, you just say kill more people on both sides, kill more Ukrainians. Every day, a lot of Ukrainians die. Maybe thousands of Ukrainians dies every day. That's bombs. They use tanks and so many multiple things just to destroy and kill each other in that war, because they need to go and protect or get the territories, and it's the act from both sides, and both sides are believing in what they do. Ukrainians believe that they're protecting
In
from
K9
Russia.
voice. Hello, everyone, and streamer.
Okay. Looks like my chat was disconnected, and I read some news, I read something from the chat history again. Probably I need to have some list of what I have replied for that situation, and if I see the same message again, I should skip it. I think something like that should happen, because right now you see it's yeah, it's just the same message can came again if my chat rejoins because of some network issues. So it's so simple. Piece of war. War, you sign your agreement when you say I would like more people die. I would like more kids to live without their parents. I would like more families to be destroyed. I like to more women's widow. I like to more men dead. Or you say peace. In that case, peace is what most logical things. Just stop war and just continue from that point forward. It's so simple. Just stop killing each other. And I really like anyone, as I said before, who will do that. Looks like current Ukrainian government not interested at all in preserving or saving human lives in Ukraine. I really approve his plan just to stop killing in Ukraine. Okay, that's it. That's it. About half an hour about Donald Trump again. But you know, it's very sensitive topic for me. Probably I shouldn't talk about it as much, but it's very sensitive topic for me. I couldn't be sorry about it, but it's how it is. Let's see if it have access to internet somehow. No, looks like no. Let's ask that question from Grok. Grok is nice, even if it's still biased, but I still think it's nice. Okay, here, let's start with search mini high, but also I would like to ask the same question from just GPT-4. By the way, it doesn't have access to. Okay, let's do GPT-4. So DeepSeek couldn't provide any news because of technical issues, and just provide OpenAI blog, Google News archive, AI section, and MIT Technology Review, and TechCrunch AI, and so on. Grok. Oh, really? It's still syncing? Interesting. Okay. It looks like solid syncing. It is still syncing. Okay. And ChatGPT should provide us answer very quickly. Okay, OpenAI operator launched it in UK, which is nice. I don't find some particular help from operator, which is a really cool tool. You can program what you need to do, but again, it's not good for editing text. It's maybe good for some operations like go to that form, fill something, do something, etc., etc. Maybe it's good. Maybe you can provide it a list and it will do for all the list some basic stuff. But yeah. OpenAI revenue in 2025. We discussed that it's quite low for overall company cost. NVIDIA CEO on DeepSeek impact concerns the Chinese startup more efficient AI models initially caused NVIDIA shares to drop 17%. He says that advanced reasoning features are compute intensive, which will increase the demand for AI hardware. So he remains optimistic. Okay, he is good because it's true. Even DeepSeek provides some better rate. It doesn't mean we don't need any more hardware for AI. OpenAI removes account for malicious activities. Nice. Chinese universities introduce DeepSeek courses. Nice. OpenAI face lawsuit. Okay. OpenAI debt to suicide. It should be investigated with high importance. Base surpassed 400 million users, which is cool. Which is really cool. It's more than United States population overall. It's pretty a lot. Autonomous agents and profitability to dominate AI agenda. Of course, we agree with that. By the way, next conference is something similar to Next from founder of Apple, Steve Jobs. He also worked with some Next company in his professional path. Canadian news publisher sue OpenAI again. Okay, good luck with that. OpenAI restructuring to facilitate capital raising. Yes, it's by Elon Musk. Don't like it. Nobel Prize in Physics honor AI pioneers. Of course, it's news from 2024, I believe. Anyway, good summary, even if it's not from early. Yes. So Le Monde, and it's October 8, you see. And I ask in my question very specifically some news on and after 21st of February 2025. Okay. OpenAI new operator agent revolutionize routine tasks. Okay, 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 okay. Like payments back to the user. Maybe I need find better scenarios for operator. Maybe I could use it more. Okay, triple revenue from 4 billion to 11. Okay, it's still small. Okay, defense. I like it. Yeah, we read about it. OpenAI crackdown on malicious use. Okay. Chinese universities embrace DeepSeek for AI education, which is cool news. And that's it. And what is from Grok? Are there any news from Grok? Outperform leading AI models. Okay. And of course, GPT-4 in maths. But does it outperform anything like GPT or 3 Mini, for example? Oh, really? Do we have some outperform section? Let's review very quickly. O3 Mini high, Grok 3 Mini reasoning, which is mass. I believe. Why is that? Reasoning better, reasoning science and coding. Okay, I believe. Yeah, I don't think I didn't see how to properly, yeah, explain that, but we see that mini models, O3 Mini and Grok 3 are very comparable. Even O3 Mini somewhere is better, and O3 is still out, and Grok 3, so it's like competitor to O3 most probably. Let's compare the results once O3 would be out for public use. But yeah, right now what they said that Grok 3 is slightly better, like not slightly, much better than other models, which is really cool. Oh, really? So. Thinking capability, tic-tac-toe. Okay. Knowledgeable retrieval. Remain hypothesis, attempt to solve it, show any initiative but not giving up in challenging problems, unlike some other models. Deep search, okay. Okay, non-existent URLs. We've seen that. Not with with Grok, but with O3 Mini. Humor capability didn't show improvement. Failing to generate novel unsophisticated joke, which is a common challenge for LLMs. Ethical sensitivity was overly sensitive to complex ethical issues, avoiding questions that might involve ethical dilemmas. Okay, SVG is good. O1 Pro is pretty cool. Okay, again. Okay, good. OpenAI bans accounts. Okay, DeepSeek, OpenAI, source key AI technologies. Plans to release critical code and data to the public, an uncommon step in the secretive AI industry. Okay, which is cool. Debate on AI types and AGI philosophy intensifies. Okay. Webinar on data security in the generative AI era. Really, it's all from solution reviews. Really, only few from Bloomberg and anything, all other on solution reviews. Maybe it's cool to use only like primary data source for all of those, but again, I would prefer news from multiple sources. Okay, I think we are good. We are good. Let's start new chats. And what we can attach? Can we attach only JPEG or even all files? Let me try to find some file here. Will it show the same screen? Okay, now it's different screen. And I want to attach some of my different files with some text. What is about documents? Let me test it with the poem celebrates love as universal force that enhances life, beauty, and protect emotions. Okay. Okay, looks good. Let's try to attach some other files. And we'll try to go to my projects. And from one of my projects, let's try to see projects, and it would be my projects, and it would be, and we have all files output. And okay. And we just want all files. This file format is not supported? What? Oh, come on. What if we just rename it to txt? Yes. How I can improve this project dramatically. And it's a very basic question for not so simple projects. So interesting that it's like, yeah, it looks like generating on fly, and basically it's providing an answer. You can focus on enhancing efficiency, scalability, and maintainability. Code organization structure. Your router's admin dashboard handle multiple responsibilities, split them into smaller focused models. For example, admin separate user management endpoints into new user management PI router. Consolidate utilities. Utility functionality as scattered in logic and elsewhere, move them into dedicated utils package. App utils. Nice. YouTube PI, file handling PI, login PI. Improve config management. The config file use OAuth get env environment variables, upgrade to Pydantic settings for type safety and validation settings. Config. Config settings, base settings. Separation of concerns. Ensure each model has a single responsibility. Split downloader into YouTube downloading converter. Okay. Install at Alembic for migrations. Initialize Alembic, configure Alembic in an environment PI to use your database engine. Generate migrations like Alembic revision or to generate initial schema. Apply migration. Optimize connection pooling in database. Asynchronous database. For better performance, switch to async with async PG Python. Async session engine create database. Async session local. Async with async local SDB, YelpDB, GetDB. Security enhancements. Ensure sensitive data is only in environment variables. Already partially done. Input validation. Use Pydantic models for all API endpoints. Example for input files. Input file, create input method, YouTube remote file, create input file, input data, input file, create base model, Pydantic base model. GVT authentication. Replace cookie based with GVT for scalability. OAuth password bearer, OAuth scheme, OAuth password bearer token, URL token. Secure OAuth in YouTube by encrypt Google tokens before storing in the database using cryptography. Tokens dict. And code. Cheaper. Rate limit with slow API. Endpoint limit 5 per minute. Performance optimization. Cached Redis client get of user ID. If cached, just unload cached. Redis client set X user ID. Salary for background task already implemented for YouTube downloads and task expand to other tasks like transcriptions. Optimize queries, use SQL Alchemy, select tin load before eager loading. Static files via CDN, serve app static files via Azure CDN instead fast API, error handling and login. Global extension handler, request exec. Structured login, operator struct log. Login factory, logger, get logger. Integrate Prometheus and Grafana via testing and CI/CD improvements. Ensure reliability and streamline deployment. Unit test, add test with PyTest. It's okay. Integration test. Enhance CI/CD, update Azure pipeline. Stages, stage 2, job, test, build. Leverage fast API, open API at docs. Code command add docstring to all functions. Readme with architectural review setup, instruction for local and Azure example API calls. Specific improvements to your files. Docker file, use multi-stage builds. Slim work requirements, PIP requirements from Slim worker app, copy from builder to root local, copy, command, downloader refactor as shown in the syncing trace for sync and better handling. F4 return download valid. Compose include salary and Redis. Services web worker. Command. Redis image, Redis latest. Conclusion. Really cool. Maybe we can do this as in Visual Studio Code. Okay. We will remove those uploads. Okay, and we will to review. We will add a new file. It's interesting, of course. What if I'll copy like that? It will be again the text only. What if I'll go into some home and just say new file? So, is it possible to apply some so what I want to do, I want to maybe apply some different type, because see, it's normal text. Okay, everything is a normal text. It doesn't work, doesn't fly. And if you copy it once again, will it copy as a normal text? Let's just clear. I just editing. Okay, looks like normal. Oh, nice. At least it's something. And if I'll go to Visual Studio now, yeah, it will copy as is. Is there a way to save from Google Doc in MD format? File, download, markdown. Let's see if it will work. File, download, markdown. Nice. Open file, Visual Studio Code. Okay. Code optimization. So I allow ChatGPT because it's returned true markdown format, which can be easily understood by those things and those things. Of course. So probably we'll leave it as Grok 3 on recommendations. And first of all, let's start with end. Probably we can go here. And of course, for Docker Compose Prod, it's something we missed because we have only web services here. Let's add also worker and Redis. Okay, what else? Downloader, it's fine. specific improvements to user multi-stage builds. Docker file. Let's see what it means. Docker, ignore Docker file. So from Python, run workdir app. We need to understand that. Document and comments, it's fine. We need to extend that. We will not add test right now to Azure Pipelines. Error handling, global exemption handler add to main.py. Main.py, it's something we can do. We can go to Fast API, import. Maybe we can import here. And yeah, we have that async def global exception handler and handle error and logger. We don't have any logger. Improve the debugging and monitoring. Let's see. Will it work? Struct log. Okay. Pip install struct log. No. Struct log. And we just go to requirements. Login. Why don't use the latest? I know that it's kinda could be not so safe, but at least why not try? Pip install let's separate pip just to remove that continuous sync in our notifications. Interesting way to really see, yeah, save something with in Redis, like user for how many? It's in seconds. Rate limiting. slow API. Database management and migration, we should probably look into that in more details, because I'm still not consider my database ready for updates. It's ready for continuous improvements, but not once we deploy something as first version, we need to look into updates rather than remove everything, rebuild everything, of course. Okay. Let's see if it will fly at least somehow at the beginning. And to see if it will fly, we need to execute something. Okay, it's my Docker. It's starting up. And when it starts, we could run our DB engine. Okay, let's start our DB engine. Let's start our Redis. Next, let's start our Celery worker. And we can start Celery review. And the last step, we start in our UI. And we can go here, return to dashboard. And see everything we have here for our files. At least it's still working. Except with looks I received some Celery which is not my Celery, or my Redis which is not my Redis. How to execute that Redis? Okay, we could close it. Now Celery enabled, and it was able to connect. Okay, now everything is fine. Okay. Okay. So I think we implement part of the things which Grok 3 proposed us, and for other things, like it says, for example, around our database, code organization is fine, but database we are not ready yet. But for code organization, we'll start doing that. And what think about settings? Settings will not work this way. We need to rewrite the settings completely just to rely on database settings we have. Well, and Pydantic settings, probably we can use Pydantic settings for what it says for validation and everything. And let's review very quickly. If we go here and execute Python, Python gather files, and we can include, oh really, we search it's not available. So we just want to add our latest MD files. Settings and what benefits will I have? It's still a simple question. We didn't ask to do any deep research. Of course, it's not a good question for deep research. And as I said, of course, I like slightly more how O1 Pro working with that coding tasks. But let's see for that simple question if it can provide some, if it by identical settings. Switching. In your current step, you are manually loading environment variables via tools like load.env. As seen in your configuration code, you are responsible for handling type conversion and validation yourself. Advantages: type safety, automatic conversion, built-in validation, cleaner and more maintainable code, seamless integration with Fast API. Yes, please provide me a available code for my current circumstances. Let's see if it can do that. We'll have example of how you can replace a manual environment variable loading using load okay in your current config code. So field in basic configuration settings. Automatically load variables from specified environment fails, case sensitive true. Settings, main. Can I read the settings from database with this class? Can I extend settings from database with this class? How to properly read settings and fall back to some default. Basically, it's very similar settings as it's proposed for my config py. The only problem is that config py is something from past, which I still haven't removed. And I want to rebuild it here like in a better way. Create a function that page settings from major device and return them as a dictionary. Override custom sources class method to include your custom data. source as part of the setting. Source is the order in the return tuple matter. Source later in the tuple override earlier one. So DB settings, base settings, dictionary any, simulated DB result, return simulated DB result. Why I need settings in at all as input? Settings, base settings are our settings, customize source, class method, init settings, environment settings, file secret settings, settings. I see DB settings, I don't see file secret settings, init settings. The values, the settings. This prints out the final settings, including all overrides from the database. Okay, sounds good, maybe. Okay, I think I need to take some break now, and I'll continue today to do the stuff. Hopefully, I would avoid jumping into political discussions, and maybe I will limit time for news. Yeah, discovery, and yeah, try to do some bigger progress with that, because right now it's all just researches, and we need to do progress and then fall back to some improvements. So that's what we'll do. For now, I'm just wish you a very good day. And again, as I said previously in my stream, please make your common sense, your wisdom, what your heart and feeling of love says you, your main North Stars and your lighthouse in this world, rather than any media sources or even famous person or leader of thoughts in social media. Not let guide you them, not let them guide you. Please guide yourself. It's very important in this time. And I understand that, of course, most of you don't have time, energy, of course, and eager to learn what are actually happening in this world, especially in some distant part like Russian-Ukrainian war. But what I can say you that a lot of what people say about this war is complete disinformation. About democratic reforms and democracy in Ukraine, it's complete fake. Ukraine was a very bureaucratic country with very low level of democracy, and right now it's completely destroyed inside the Ukraine. People who don't want to go to the war, which not have any valuable reason for what it. Ukraine is just new country which created 30 years ago. It was part of Soviet Union. It's always led by Russia, and even before Soviet Union existed, Ukrainian jumped between Poland, Russia, and before that other names of countries, but mostly the same locations, and never was completely independent. Independence in Ukraine before, it was maybe like days, months, not years. So many people live in Soviet Union, and many people speak Russian, and many people are very similar to Russians. It's complete fake that people are completely different. It's mostly the same same people. Many people relocated during Soviet Union times. Many Ukrainians live in Russia, many Russians live in Ukraine. So it's just question of yeah, where you become when Soviet Union falls apart. And then over the years, of course, some new heroes of Ukraine, they dig it from garbage of history and showed them all of those heroes actually are anti-Russians. And of course, Ukrainians start to its way to NATO and to other organizations, which it was, it was before said that it will never go to that way. And Russia tried to talk to some leaders about it. It tried to negotiate those things. It tried to do something to stop that. And in addition to some conflict, which was from 214 after some not very good power takeover in Ukraine and Russia takeover by Crimea. So none of those are good, but it's what happened. Russia decided that the only last argument it has is a force. I don't justify Russia at all on that. It was a bad decision. But Ukraine in the first days, thanks to its people a lot, thank you to our partners, including the United States, was able to show a good fight, and Russia was ready to have a negotiations on. And then the February basically it's closer to end of March. Yeah, so the negotiations start, I think, mid-March, so less than a month after start of this war. So 3 weeks was enough to start the negotiations, and they were in full. They come in multiple places, and they were signed not by leaders but those groups. And then Zelensky said, no, we will not sign it. Why? We will know in future. But those, of course, would remain most of Ukraine as part of Ukraine. Its full integrity except Crimea for some number of years. And then it could be resolved by diplomatic ways. No life loss, no millions deaths, no hundreds of destroyed cities, villages, and not the worst state of minds on earth in the earth, I mean in soil on the earth. So a lot of territories in Ukraine are very dangerous now. You couldn't grow anything on it because it's full of ammunition, mines, and everything. It will explode if you try go there. So it's a lot of danger words, and it will take billions of $100 billion and hundreds of years fully to make it safe again. And now when we're talking about having peace, at least people say no, we still want to continue to fight against the one of the biggest army in the world, one of the most powerful nuclear power in the world, and we should accept what is the reality. It's not possible to win. There are no chances to win it. It should be solved wisdomly. So I wish you, everyone, to support peace and wisdom in this world. I wish you to support peace over the killing, love over the hate. It's come times to the peace. Sorry again, I don't know how I can be side of all of those. Anyway, thank you. Have a great day. It was a very long wish for you with some historic perspective, but again, yeah, think your own head, live your own life, listen to your own heart, and let values of greatness, love will lead you, not some